of the Senate Environment and Natural Resources Finance Committee. Today is Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, approximately 10:30 a.m. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. We all are in order. Members, Senator Ingebretson is in another committee, so I'll be chairing until he returns. All of the bills we will be hearing today will be laid over for possible inclusion. First order of business is Senate File 1288. Senator Pratt, welcome to the committee. Senator, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members, Senate File 1288 is a bill that we've had in the past and very important to the economic development of Scott County. And it appropriates $240,000 in each year of the biennium to the Board of Water and Soil Resources to defray the cost of annual cost of operating and maintaining sites for dredge material in the Minnesota River. As you know, the ports of Savage on the Minnesota River are very important for our agricultural product. It's an international port, and but unfortunately, because of the condition of the river and the silt, requires annual, sometimes biannual dredging in order to keep that open. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd really rather turn it over to my testifiers. They'll tell a much better story.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. First up, we have Linda Loomis. Do I see Linda on the call here? Ms. Loomis?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And
thank you. Please identify yourself for the record and welcome to the committee.
My name is Linda Loomis. I'm the administrator of the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District. And the Watershed District has the responsibility and was basically formed for this purpose of working with the Corps of Engineers to maintain the navigation channel from the ports of Savage to the Minnesota River. And every year we are charged with managing the material that's dredged from the river to maintain the navigation channel. And we've continued to see increasing amounts of sediment collect in the channel. And also we work with the terminal operators in Savage to assist them with keeping their barge slips open and able to be fully load the barges. Part of the problem they have is silt fills in their terminal areas, and if it's not dredged properly, they can't load the barges with the grain product leaving the state to their full depth. So we work with them when they dredge their terminal areas, they place material on our dredge site, which is located at River Mile 14.2 in the city of Savage. And they allow the material to dry out before it is able to be transported to a final resting place, which is either a landfill where it's used for daily cover, or it's last couple of years we've been able to find an agricultural user that will take it and use it as top dressing on their fields. I'm not sure where else they use that. It's a silty material that comes from the barge slips. What comes from the main channel, we are able to reuse for construction fill. And that's why we've been able to maintain our site in the city of Savage, but it takes some upkeep. We recently used the money that we received from the state of Minnesota to bring the site up to industry standards for dredge storage. And we completed that project in 2020, and we now we're working on our capital plan for additional uses now of the money. So that's what the funds are used for, is to keep the channel open and to help us manage the dredge material. As the local sponsor for the Corps, that's our responsibility, is to manage that dredge material that comes out of the river. And it's continued to increase. If you talk to the Corps of Engineers, they will tell you that they're dredging more and more material out of the river every year. So the need for this is going to go on into the foreseeable future. So I guess with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin Bagalki. Welcome, Mr. Bagalki. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Kevin Bagalki. I'm the Assistant Director for Regional Operations with the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. We have worked with the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District on this the past 2 biennium. The funding has been included in our base, and we can continue to work with them to pass those dollars through to the Watershed District for them to fulfill their duties and responsibilities. So with that, I'd be happy to address any questions as well.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Senator Dibble, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Ms. Loomis, which I was going to ask anyways, but then really wanted to ask after the final comments in summation of your testimony, Ms. Loomis. You said the Corps is dredging more and more sediment every year. Why is that the case? So where is the sediment coming from, and why more material, and do we need to address that? Or I know that maybe you don't need to address it, but we as a state, or we as a state legislature, I assume it's agricultural erosion and the like into the Minnesota, but have you studied that, and do you understand that phenomenon?
Ms. Loomis.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Dibble. That's a very good question, and we have worked with other agencies within the Minnesota River Basin to study that issue. And basically where it's coming from, it's a combination of things. As you're aware, climate change has caused for more precipitation in the region, and also when we do get the rain, they're more heavy rainfalls, which what happens is between the heavier rainfalls and the increases in drainage, both urban, suburban, and agricultural, we're seeing increased flows in the river. And it's the increased flows that are causing erosion of riverbanks and stream banks, and increases in the amount of sediment that is coming down the channel. We have several studies. We've been working with the USGS and the Corps of Engineers to monitor the sediment concentrations in the Minnesota River. And basically what we're finding is about 1 million tons of sediment every year is being deposited in the river valley between the city of Georgia and the Mississippi River. And we are looking for ways to mitigate that flow of water. We're trying to increase the amount of storage on the upland that occurs in agricultural areas. We're trying to look at municipal drainage systems and what can be done there to slow the flow and retain more water on the land, or at least slow down the rate at which it comes to the river and creeks and ravines and gullies in the area. So we are trying to address that, but you know, it's not a cheap prospect to do that. And then we also have to convince landowners in the agricultural areas to allow storage of water on their lands. And you know, 80% of the Minnesota River Basin is agricultural land use, so that makes the sense to address that first. Since it's the biggest land use, but a lot of farmers don't want to pay to have water stored on their land. So there's some initiatives out there right now that are looking at funding through NRCS or other programs, ways to fund storage on agricultural land. And we're also looking to do the same in urban areas. So I don't know. We could go on and on. There's been a lot of study done, so.
Senator Dibble.
No, thank you. No, that was great, thorough answer, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Madam President. And to Senator Dibble's question, I think it's a really good question. Scott County Soil and Water Conservation District has been very active in helping to clean up the flows into the Minnesota River. I would say predominantly along the Sand Creek, as well as the Credit River, where those are major tributaries into the river. But Senator Dibble, we're also seeing significant erosion along the riverbank in Shakopee. And so I have Senate File 1123, which is a bonding request to help stabilize the riverbank so that we reduce the erosion going into Savage.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Members, is there any other discussion? Seeing no more hands and no more questions. Thank you, Senator Pratt. Senate File 1288 will be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members.
Thank you. Next up, we have Senate File 1638, Senator Bakk. Senator Bakk, do I see the camera here? I do not see Senator Bakk.
Senator Root, I'll contact his staff.
Okay. Senator Goggin, would you be ready? Are your testifiers ready? We can move on to your bill.
We're missing a testifier.
I am ready to go, though I don't know where my testifier is at this time. But he may not be able to make it as well.
All right, I need someone to mute. That's not, okay. Well, Senator Goggin, if you're ready to go, why don't we go to your bill?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate you taking the time to hear my bill here today. Minneiska is a small little town just north of Winona. It's on the Mississippi River. They've got a boat launch down there that they've had trouble with dredging it and keeping it to where you know, fishing boats and speed boats and pontoon boats can launch from there. So what this request is for $100,000 to dredge out the boat launch through the tubes out into the channel and help this small community, you know, get their launch operational because that's a lifeblood for them down there. They rely on this boat launch for fishermen and other outdoor enthusiasts that want to be on the river to come into their town and spend some dollars down there and enjoy the area of Minneiska. And so that's the gist of the bill, Madam Chair. I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Senator Goggin. I do see one of your testifiers, Andrew Korsberg from the DNR.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to the committee. State your name for the record and proceed when you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. My name is Andrew Korsberg. I work with DNR Parks and Trails. You know, I just want to, you know, thank you for the chance to speak and comment on the bill. You know, the DNR does have a few concerns about dredging at this site, but we hope to continue to work with the authors and the local community to develop solutions for the boat launch. You know, it is understandable that the local community may want to put forward dredging as a way to support larger motorboats on the public water access. You know, however, there are some unintended consequences of dredging, and so we're not sure that that's the best solution. DNR does not believe that the specific site, you know, may be capable of accommodating the level of water recreation that maybe the local community is looking for, and that we have a little bit of concern that some investments, you know, will require, you know, of recurring dredging are maybe not the best strategic investment of state funds over the long term. A few key points about the site. The public water access was originally intended for smaller watercraft like flat bottom boats or canoes or kayaks. DNR engineering staff have surveyed the site and demonstrated that current river channel bottoms are essentially the same at elevations as they were with the original design when it was put in place in 1990. So it's sort of our understanding that the current access is meeting the original intended conditions and uses. Dredging to try to meet the needs of the larger boats could potentially make the water level too low in certain places, and so there's some safety issues potentially. I know for reference, MnDOT has done some recent routine maintenance related to the Highway 61, including dredging of part of the Bakk culvert area. And depending on the level of dredging, there are likely additional permitting requirements that could be in play, and so it's not exactly clear that even if the DNR were appropriated the funding, we'd be able to fix the situation more than just maybe a short-term benefit. The DNR has worked with the city of Minneiska, and so we've been working with them to set up a cooperative agreement to jointly take care of the public water access. And then, one thing, we do really value is there are significant opportunities to promote water accesses for paddlers and expand non-motorized use at the site and to help support the local community. Just some general information about dredging as it relates to public water accesses. Channel dredging for routine maintenance of those access sites are not really a desirable or sustainable solution for the DNR. We do not typically use this approach when dealing with our public water access sites. One of the concerns is that it can be costly and it requires additional work with the Army Corps of Engineers, and it also can potentially have unintended ecological impacts. And also, it would likely have to be done again and again, and so it's not necessarily a long-term solution. And then overall, with the 1,500 public water access sites across the state that the DNR works to maintain and manage, given our limited funding, and trying to maintain a high-quality water recreation system, we're not exactly sure that dredging, may be the most prudent course of action. So just with that, thanks for the chance to comment.
Thank you. And I see that we have our Minneiska mayor has joined us. Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record and proceed when you're ready.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mark Tieber. I'm the current mayor of Minneiska. I was asked to come today to speak about our boat landing.
Go ahead when you're ready.
I came in a little late on Mr. Korsberg's information that he was giving. A few things that I would like to disagree with right away is the channel dredging would not be routine maintenance. It would be a one-time deal. The natural flow of the river would allow for a natural channel to exist, where the original channel was cut in such a way that the river channel was able to fill in, or the river was able to fill in the channel again within a 2-year period of time. The DNR has recognized that. There is a permit in place, active right now, to take care of these things. The last effort from the DNR was a full MnDOT crew coming 2 hours away every day, traveling 2 hours, all their gear, all their trucks, dump trucks, heavy machinery equipment. Every day they drive 2 hours, commute here, work for 4 hours, and commute back. I've seen wastes of money in the past. This was grossly a waste of money, especially when we've been trying to work with the DNR with local contractors that would come in and do this work for pennies on the dollar compared to what was just spent. When we work with the DNR, it's gotten better, but originally it was very painful. You would just not get contact back, or they would dismiss the issue or just keep pushing it off and pushing it off. It wasn't until we got some state involvement that the DNR started to show interest in this. The cooperative plan that Mr. Korsberg references really puts Minneiska in a bad situation, because the DNR has already stated that there are certain things that we are just not allowed to do, and those things are maintaining the boat landing and how it has to happen. We've provided private land to be able to have sediment piles adjacent to this boat landing, and the DNR has just flat out refused to even look at it. This has been an ongoing issue since the boat landing was put in. For a couple of years, it was okay, but once a few road projects were finished in this area, we saw a massive increase in sediment in that area, specifically Winona County Road 25. There was a major redevelopment done there, and after that, we saw a lot of sediment come into the area. The county disagrees with the city on that, of course. However, that's what we're experiencing. So I kind of gave you a lot of information in a very short period of time there, but I'd like to step back to the original plan that was offered to the city of Minneiska. The original plan was in the location where the boat landing is currently at. The original plan called for paved parking lots, concrete curb and gutter, riprap along the shoreline, and for people to park and access, even a small basketball court. And what we have now is basically a big mud puddle. So it's really disappointing. This land was given to the state by some local residents in Minneiska to do this. We were approached by the state or the DNR to do this. We didn't seek out the DNR to do this. So we feel the city feels somewhat just betrayed or left in the dark on this maintenance issue, which is a decade long now. So much so now that we have residents, not necessarily Minneiska residents, or people using the boat landing that are trying to find ways to clear the tubes and clear the channels themselves because they want to use it. It's used quite a bit. People come from all over to launch from here. And lastly, there are no emergency access points between the two dams other than this Minneiska launch point. We were told that if emergency personnel would need to get out into this pool, they can travel to Wisconsin, Nelson, Wisconsin, and launch from there. I surely hope none of you or your family members are out in this pool and have an accident and need emergency personnel, because it's going to take them a long time to get to you if that's what they have to do. So I'll leave it at that. As you can tell, there's a lot of frustration in dealing with this landing. We just want some resolve, is what the city's looking for. And I know the people that use it are looking for the same thing. We had petitions signed where people coming from Wisconsin, Iowa, one guy was as far as South Dakota that comes over here several times a year, stays in the area and fishes and uses this landing. And a lot of Minnesota residents there. They come from all over. Bird hunters, fishermen, outdoor enthusiasts. We run into a lot of them. So at that, I'll stop talking at this point and hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tibor. Senator Goggin.
Well, Madam Chair, as you can see, this is a launch that's vital to the southeastern part of the state along the Mississippi River. And as the mayor said, we have people coming from all over to use this launch. And, as he said, as an emergency launch, it's critical to have this operational so that we can make sure we get emergency services on the river as quickly as we can. So, yeah, it has been a struggle. I've been working on this since I got here in 2017. And, I just would like to see a resolution to this. And, we've been down in Minneiska many times, talking with the local residents. We've met with the DNR. We've met with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I truly think we can come to a resolution on this that will work for everyone.
Thank you. Senator Eaton, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Mr. Korsberg, I remember when this bill came up the last time before me, it was probably, I don't know, it was last year or the year before, but the DNR, I had some questions about needing an environmental impact study. And I guess I'd like to hear Mr. Korsberg's response to some of the things the mayor said.
Mr. Korsberg.
Madam Chair, members, Senator Deaton. Yes, just a couple comments. The assessment that we were working on was that engineering assessment having to do with the elevation of the sediment, from my understanding. But we're happy to, if you'd like more information on that, we can provide that maybe after the hearing. And then just sort of, a couple of responses to the mayor. We're happy to sort of work after the hearing here with the senator and the mayor to help resolve the issue. One comment just to clarify, the MnDOT dredging that was happening associated with the Bakk culvert was sort of routine, which was done by MnDOT, not by the DNR, though we had been in communication with them, and so it wasn't. The DNR did not pay for that dredging. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Goggin, it looks like you have you and your testifiers and Mr. Mayor have some work to do on this bill. And it looks like you have everybody willing to do so. So we are going to lay this bill over for possible inclusion. And I think that you can report back to Senator Ingebretson your progress on this.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee members.
With that, Senate File 272 will be laid over for possible inclusion. And with that, I see Senator Ingebretson, the chair is back. And Senator Ingebretson, you have your gavel back.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, right now, I guess we're into the last bill of the agenda, Senate File 1638, Senator Bakk, all-terrain vehicle definition modification, all-terrain vehicle grants and aids, and trail master plan appropriation. Senator Bakk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry I got out of whack on your agenda. I was stuck on a Zoom call with a group of my county commissioners. Mr. Chairman, this is a bill that was brought to me by the All-Terrain Vehicle Association of Minnesota, ATVAM. It's appropriating some money out of their dedicated account for trail maintenance, $300,000 in 22, $300,000 in 23, and then $250,000 to the DNR to work on a master plan on ATV trail development. We haven't done that yet, and that really, I think making ATV opportunities more places around the state where the DNR can identify that, I think would be a good thing for those communities and for the riders. And then the only other thing, and I moved this bill from Senator Rood's committee to yours, Mr. Chairman, thinking it was all about finance, but there is actually a small little policy change in it. Senator Rood, I'm sorry about that. I didn't know that, but on line 1.9 or 1.8 and 9, all-terrain vehicle description of what they are says low pressure tires. That was the case years ago, back when I bought my first ATV, my 1982 big red three-wheeler Honda, that I still have, Mr. Chairman, by the way. But they're not low pressure tires any longer. ATVs have changed a lot. I think that probably the reason that they were originally low pressure was they had no suspension on those early machines. And so the tires had to absorb much of the cushion when you bumped into obstacles. So it just reduces or eliminates the low pressure reference on the tires on ATVs, more consistent with, I think, how they actually are today. So, Mr. Chairman, I think Ron Potter, the president of ADVAM, is I think on the screen somewhere, and I think maybe might be good to hear with him kind of what's happening out in the ATV world in Minnesota.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Potter.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for hearing our bill today. My name is Ron.
Oh, we lost you. Sorry, we lost you there. There you are.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right.
Please identify yourself again. I'm sorry.
My name is Ron Potter. I am the president of the ATV Association of Minnesota. And thank you for hearing our bills this morning. As Senator Bakk has stated, we have 3 items in there. The first one being the policy issue with the low pressure tire. Again, it's just to remove that confusion because low pressure is not defined anywhere. So it really doesn't have a lot of meaning. And as Senator Bakk stated, the new ones are not low pressure like they used to be. The other issues is the 300,000 in 22 and another 300,000 in 23 to go into the grant and aid funding. Last year, the state of Minnesota issued all of the grant and aid money that was available to the clubs for maintaining our trail system. So we need to increase that amount so we can maintain our trails and protect the investment that state has made in those trail systems. We have some major systems coming online this year, the Voyager and the Prospector. So we need to make sure that there's adequate money to maintain those trail systems and protect the environment and keep the trail safe. The third issue is the master plan. And we're very interested in getting a master plan done as demand continues to increase. With COVID-19, we've seen a major influx of activity out there. And so we need to develop a plan so we can make sure that we're putting the investment where it should be and to meet the demands into the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. Senator Bakk, do you have another testifier, Ray Bone?
I think Ray might be on.
Mr. Bone.
Am I here?
Yep, there you are.
Yeah, I really have nothing to add. I was just going to be.
You were here on standby, it says.
Yes, right.
Okay. And Mr. Korsberg from the DNR? I think he's here on standby for questions as well?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right. The question I have, I know the trails have taken care of their own. Maybe staff can tell me where how the budget looks with regards. Mr. Mueller, if you can give us a little update on money that's in there.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dan Mueller, the fiscal analyst on the Senate Environment Committee. Currently, the ATV account has about a $4 million positive balance. But structurally, the account is structurally balanced. So the $4 million is sort of like one-time money. So this bill would kind of gradually work down that $4 million balance. So there's room to do this, but it would under current projection, it would work down that $4 million balance unless the ATV registrations or something increase. But right now we're currently doing about $1.66 million for grant and aid trails. So this would bring that up to almost $2 million a year.
Okay. Members, any questions? Senator Rood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and Senator Bakk and members, I just want to reassure you on the policy issue. That piece on the tires is actually included in the DNR policy bill, which we heard in committee yesterday. So it's not a new piece. It's really just an updating of the policy. So it's already in the 2021 DNR policy bill. So it just updates where the industry has gone now.
Okay, thank you. And I was going to suggest that you talk to that, but I guess you've got it taken care of. So Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this question may kind of be for the panel as a whole, whether it's Senator Bakk or Ron or whoever wants to answer it. But he mentioned something as the numbers of riders and ATVs across the state have, if anybody's ever been involved or tried purchasing a piece of equipment like this over the last 18 months, it's been difficult. You can't find used, you can't find new. It just seems to be a lot more prevalent throughout the state. So I would say one thing that you're probably going to end up seeing an increase in those ATV dollars coming into the state. But when it comes to that master plan that was mentioned a couple different times, what does the state of Minnesota look like? Does it look like northern Wisconsin? Does it look much like it does now? Is it a maintain what we have? Is it open up for bigger, brighter things into the future? What does that look like? And if this is passed through and that dollar value doesn't increase, is that a funding level we should be at? And I guess it's kind of a big open-ended question for all of the above, but that's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Senator Bakk or one of the testifiers would like to take that on?
I think Mr. Potter would be the best one to take this on. He's working out on the ground with clubs all over the state.
Okay. Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Lang and committee. Yeah, we have seen an increase, roughly about 20% over the last few years. It seems to be growing. And the master plan will help us not only determine where the demand is, but where we can help meet that demand. So it's going to look statewide. Right now, if you look at where our trails are, they're pretty much in the northern part of the state where the public land base is. But that's not necessarily where our riders are at or the registered vehicles are. So we need to look at other options, and that's what this master plan will help us and help us get ahead and help us plan for the future so we can meet that demand where it is.
Okay. Any follow-up, or I'll go to Senator Tomassoni.
I'm good. Thank you.
Senator Tomassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe Mr. Knopf can refresh my memory. I thought we did something with low pressure tires on ATVs in the last legislative session. Did it not get to the finish line, or is this a different section?
Mr. Knopf.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Tomassoni, my understanding was I think it was in last year's bill, if I recall. Mr. Stanley might know better than me. He's shaking his head yes. But I remember this in last year's bill, and of course that didn't make it to the finish line.
Okay. And then the second question, maybe for the DNR. There was a big ATV ride coming out of Chisholm just on Saturday, and the conservation officers set up a checkpoint along the ride to stop all of the ATVers. Is that legal to stop them without any probable cause? I'm wondering, because there were a real lot of upset ATVers.
Mr. Stanley or Knopf, would you like to?
Or the DNR.
Or the DNR?
Mr. Chair,
I think you want to share.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I know that checkpoints are legal some places and not legal other places. So if that's, unless Mr. Knopf or the DNR can speak to that, I'd need to do some research before I could answer that.
Mr. Knopf, do you have some ideas?
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Stanley gave you good advice. Legal checkpoints, going to a water access, things like it. There are places where they are legal to stop, but not randomly. So I think Mr. Stanley gave you a good answer. That's been my understanding over the years in looking into this.
Mr. Korsberg, maybe from the DNR, have you got some ideas?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, members. I'd have to do a little bit of research specifically on that. I know specifically with...
Please identify yourself. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Andrew Korsberg with the DNR Parks and Trails. And so I don't actually, I'm not directly with the enforcement division, and so I'd have to check with them on exactly how they are commenting. But I do know in my experience with the snowmobile program that, it's important for the officers to be able to ensure that vehicles are registered, and so those funds go to help to support the activity. And so I just would throw that out there as a comment to that, to maybe why they were stopping people.
Well, Senator Tomassoni, I think you bring up a good point here, and I think what we'll do is leave it with Mr. Stanley to research that and report back at the next in the next meeting, if that's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think everybody would like to know that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just let me say on that subject, I do think it's something we need to get an answer to. Individuals are doing a tremendous job of building out this this trail system for ATVs, much like what was done in the 70s and the early 80s for snowmobiles, a system built largely on the backs of volunteers. And the local business infrastructure is helped a great deal by it. And this is, right now, today at least, it's kind of a destination sport in that there aren't many places people can ride, so they travel mostly north to be able to ride. And I sure wouldn't want people who want to come up there to recreate in, maybe pretty significant numbers to feel somehow that, well, you can't go up north because you feel like you're getting harassed by the department. So I think we need to be sensitive to all the money that's being spent to promote tourism, that somehow the department doesn't take actions that in some way mitigate all of our efforts to try and expand tourism in the areas of the state that can benefit from it. So I think if we can get an answer to that, maybe we need to clarify some language. It's worth having a conversation about.
Senator Bakk, I agree, and and I'll bring the other angle in there. We certainly don't want people that are on the trail that aren't registered, because if they don't register, then they're really not paying their way. And if that's what it's for, just a spot check here and there. But yes, we can certainly look into that. We certainly don't want to run them away from the sport, because it's an absolute growing sport, and we don't want to step in the way of that, but we want everybody to pay their way for sure. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'm kind of sensitive to that, because up in Voyageurs National Park, the Park Service, we've got a pretty massive trail network up there. There's over 100 miles just of ice trails that are staked. It's a wonderful place to snowmobile, but I hear complaints often about the National Park Service stopping people, checking their registrations, which I don't know that they have any authority to do, but I hear all the time people feeling like they're harassed up in Voyageurs National Park, not by the DNR, but by some federal park rangers that, and I don't know what kind of cooperative agreement DNR has with them, but I think in some cases they're probably overstepping their authority. And I know a lot of resorts get very upset when guests come back and tell the resort owner they felt like they were harassed by local folks.
Yeah. Mr. Stanley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I understand the scope of what you're asking, because several of you have talked about snowmobiles and ATVs. You mentioned registration violations. I didn't know if you were also interested in DUI and that sort of thing. So, Mr. Chair, I just wanted clarity on the scope of the inquiry that the committee would like us to undertake. And depending on the scope of that inquiry, our next meeting is tomorrow morning, so I may need some additional time if that's okay.
I'm just guessing that we'd like to have a DNR's opinion as to what legally they can do. I guess I can't speak for the National Park Service, but what kind of stops that they conduct? Are they random, or are they on complaint? What legalities do they have that you could back up 7 or 8, or even for that matter 30 four-wheelers that want to get on a trail? Seems rather unreasonable, but yeah, I'm going to certainly give you more time, Mr. Stanley. That's fine, just so we get an answer here fairly quickly.
Mr. Chairman?
Does that sound right, Mr. Knopf?
Well, Mr. Chairman, yes, what I would recommend is that you invite Colonel Smith in to talk about this, because I think that's where you need to have the discussion, is because they understand this area of law very well about what are legal stops and illegal stops, and so they would be the people to have in to talk about this.
That might be the right idea. I should have thought of that before. He certainly would have that. So that's what we'll do. We'll invite him to the next meeting. Thank you, members. Any other questions with regards to Senate File 1638? Seeing none, Senator Bakk, 1638 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks to the testifiers and members. That's it. We stand adjourned for the day. Thank you.
Thank you.